Hey everyone, chaomix here. Sonic Heroes is a puzzle game. You know, those slow and methodical games that require players to carefully plan out their every move? Yeah, that's Sonic Heroes. Now, I know what you're probably thinking.
Chaomix, what the heck are you talking about, man? That's like the complete opposite of a Sonic game.
Trust me, I get it. You play a Sonic game, you just want to go fast, naturally. But playing Sonic Heroes like this, like any other 3D Sonic game, is pretty much the equivalent of trying to jam a square peg into a circular hole. You're not trying to solve the puzzle, you're just brute forcing it. And a lot of people, unfortunately, end up playing it like this anyways and find that their experience wasn't as enjoyable as they would have liked. And I'm not even gonna lie, this pretty much describes my own time with this game until very recently. And there's a reason for that. Sonic Heroes came out right after Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. You might have heard of it. It was literally the #1 best-selling third-party title on the Nintendo GameCube. So a ton of people went into Heroes hot off of Adventure 2, expecting it to play very similarly. And while it might look like it does on the surface, Sonic Heroes is a very different beast. Not many people realize that Sonic Heroes is a puzzle game. Okay, well, at least half a puzzle game, because the other half is still very much Sonic at its core. But it's this first half, the puzzle game half, that people really misunderstand even 20 years after its release date. I think most people who play this game just can't grasp this concept of it differing just a bit from the usual formula. Yeah, that tends to happen a lot in this series. A large handful of people just go into Sonic Heroes and try to brute force it to play like the adventure games, while it's clearly trying to be something completely different. It's a shame too, because I think it prevents people from appreciating some of the awesome level design craftsmanship and interesting gameplay mechanics that this game has to offer. So hey, how about this? Let's go over how and why Sonic Heroes is a puzzle game, and then give some tips on how to properly play it. You know, the way Yuji Naka intended. That way we can set ourselves up for success the next time we play it, and I don't have to hear people complain about it online as much. Sound like a plan? Okay, good, let's dive in. This video is proudly sponsored by Magic Spoon. Some of my fondest childhood memories come from waking up early every Sunday morning and tape recording episodes of Sonic X while eating a big bowl of cereal. Man, what I wouldn't give to go back to the glory days. But now I'm old and I have the cursed knowledge of knowing that traditional cereal is actually really bad for you. Seriously, all you have to do is take a look at the pure amount of sugar in the nutritional facts of any big name cereal brand. It ain't pretty. But that's where our sponsor, Magic Spoon, comes into play. With Magic Spoon, you don't have to feel guilty about slamming down 3 bowls of cereal at any given time of the day. Trust me, I'm not gonna judge you if you decide to finally have that bowl of cereal at 3 in the morning that you've been craving all day. Because one of the biggest features of Magic Spoon is that it's actually healthy. Magic Spoon cereals have 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving. They're also keto-friendly, gluten-friendly, grain-free, soy-free, and low-carb. They do all of this while also tasting amazing. Seriously, 1 spoonful and you'll be hit with a huge wave of nostalgia, remembering all those cozy mornings as a kid watching your favorite cartoons with a bowl of cereal. I got the variety pack, so I got to try all sorts of flavors. Personally, I really love the peanut butter flavor. I'm just a huge sucker for anything peanut butter. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Click the link in my description to grab a variety pack and try it out for yourself today. Use code chaomix5 or go to magicspoon.com/chaomix5 for $5 off any order. And Magic Spoon is so confident that you'll love their product that if you dislike it for any reason, they'll refund you your money, no questions asked. Huge thank you to Magic Spoon for sponsoring this video, and with all that being said, let's get on to today's episode. Sonic Heroes is a tad bit more complex than your average 3D Sonic game. It's kind of a doozy, but that's why I brought my own teammate, Mark, from the YouTube channel Ace Card Gaming to help out. So let's do some formation switching to talk about the premise of this game a bit more.
Hey guys, I'm Mark. I run a little known channel called Ace Card Gaming, and I really like Sonic games. From being a Sonic fan for the last 30 years, I know all too well that his games have, and probably always will, come in many different shapes and sizes. And as chaomix just very correctly highlighted, Heroes is a very different form factor for a Sonic game, both in terms of what came before and everything that came along after. And it might sound coconuts that chaomix and myself are standing here trying to convince you all that Sonic Heroes is in fact a puzzle game, but this is actually something I've noticed more and more over the years. Something that should probably never work on paper, but given the chance, will provide you with one of the most satisfying and well-flowing Sonic games of all time. You just have to try not go against the grain. Sonic Heroes is a bit of a mouthful on a conceptual level. Instead of using characters one at a time, you now have control of 3 at once, which you're quickly able to swap between at any time with the press of a button. Each character moves around similarly enough on a basic level, but also has their own unique abilities that differentiate them, and make them better suited for the different obstacles and enemies the game throws at you.
You have 4 teams to choose from, who all make their way through the same levels with varying degrees of arrangement and difficulties. There's Team Sonic, Team Dark, Team Rose, and Team Chaotix. Sounds like a lot of characters, and yeah, it kind of is. Do not show this game to IGN, their eyes are just gonna roll into the back of their heads and they'll start foaming at the mouth. But don't worry, every character's playstyle is streamlined into one of 3 universal archetypes.
First, you've got your speed characters. With Sonic, my boy Shadow, Amy, and Espio. They are usually going to be your point characters, as they have the best acceleration and top speed of the team, making them the best choice for covering large distances quickly.
Then you have your flight characters with Tails, Rouge, Cream, and Charmy. They're used for scaling taller, vertical platforms and carrying the team across large bottomless gaps.
And finally, you have your power-type characters with Knuckles, Omega, Big, and Vector. These are your damage dealers, who you'll want to dedicate to plowing through large waves of enemies and breaking down destructible stage objects.
This team of 3 dynamic adds a sort of rock, paper, scissors element to the whole game, because Sonic Heroes is very specifically designed so that there's almost always a best option in any given situation. The puzzle is figuring out what the best option is in that given situation.
Every stage is designed with a variety of puzzles, each revolving around the strengths and unique abilities of each team member. And solving these puzzles will almost always make your progression through the game much smoother. Early on, the game will pretty much hold your hand and flat out show you which formation to use.
In fact, there's a ton of these formation change gates that just change the character for you, like you're some helpless infant that can't facilitate their own basic needs. Huh, rude. But after the first zone or 2, it trusts you know what to do and lets you take the reins and call each shot by yourself. Yeah, that's right, you're the boss now, baby. But if you screw up, it's completely on you. No pressure or anything, I'm just saying.
Yeah, like it or not, the game can't hold your hand forever, and will eventually throw you in the deep end, like an overconfident parent showing their kid some tough love. And if you haven't been paying attention to all the helpful hints the game has been bombarding you with up to now, being good, or as the case may be, not good, at solving these puzzles will usually make or break this game for you, because the game really rewards your success at these puzzles and heavily punishes your failures. If you succeed, you're rewarded with things like rings, power-ups, shortcuts, or alternate paths with less forced combat. Conversely, failing to solve them will seriously hinder the player, forcing them into situations like taking the lower path filled with more hazards, or hordes of enemies blocking your way forward.
If you play Sonic Heroes and think to yourself, wow, there's a lot of combat in this game, well, you're probably right, there is. But it also doesn't help if you're taking the smelly lower routes because you aren't solving the puzzles correctly. Sonic Heroes has a ton of branching pathways, but they aren't all created equal. Failing to correctly solve some of the platforming puzzles can send you straight to Weenie Hut Jr., the less privileged sections of the levels that force you into a ton of combat, which can be pretty damn tedious. But most annoyingly, as a side effect, it extends your time in each level to an almost unbearable amount. 9 minutes in a single Sonic level? Bro, you know I'm a Sonic fan, right? I literally don't have the attention span to handle this. But hey, I think this is a good segue into talking about the combat and how even these sections have puzzle elements as well.
Destroying lots of enemies isn't exactly a new thing to the series. We've all booped many a badnik in the classics, or mowed down dozens of enemies in homing attack chains. But an emphasis on slowing down, or even stopping, for ever-increasing numbers of enemies with ever-increasing health bars that frequently gatekeep the way forward? Yeah, that's a new one. But If you actually take the time to learn this game's systems and experiment enough to determine which formation, or in some cases, combination of formations, is best for tackling each enemy type, the combat can actually flow really well. And believe it or not, be fun.
And yes, we will be getting into heavy detail about this at the end with general tips and tricks, so stay tuned.
Okay, I won't bury you all in the nitty-gritty just yet, but similar to the platforming in these games, there is always an optimum answer to the problem in front of you, and the pain points only really ever rear their ugly heads when you yourself don't make the right choices and try to force your way through an obstacle or enemy in the wrong formation. Eventually, enemies evolve resistances to the wrong character. For example, metal needs to be stunned by flying before being taken out by power. Electric flying enemies are immune to homing attacks, and big guys with helmets that only have one weak spot are most efficiently taken out with Team Blast. See that meter you've been filling at the top there? Yeah, that's very important. So you'll need to keep an eye on it and manage it properly.
The key to success in Sonic Heroes is figuring out what the game is trying to tell you to do. This game has a visual language, and it's a language it teaches the foundations of at the very beginning, but later trusts you to decipher by yourself. Not understanding this visual language and going against the grain, while still possible, generally makes completing each level a lot more painful. It's really up to the player and their willingness to learn the solutions to these puzzles to make getting through these levels as smooth as it can be. It requires swift thinking of which character to use and really test your game knowledge you've learned up until that point, and even your ability to adapt to new puzzles quickly.
As you learn the mechanics and stages, and fine-tune your skills while working to achieve A ranks in every level, you'll slowly start to understand this game's language, which adds a really satisfying sense of flow, and also helps make Heroes a lot more replayable. Most stages have a theme or gimmick, a Sonic staple at this point, and while some focus heavily on, say, platforming, combat, or grinding, the later stages then test your mastery of all of these mechanics by combining all of these challenges into a single stage, and that's just good game design.
Alright, we promised a guide at the second half of this video, and we plan on delivering.
We're hoping that by learning the following tips and tricks, you'll soon be solving the puzzles of Sonic Heroes like a pro, and see that the potential is there in this game to experience that unmistakable sense of flow and momentum you only really ever get from a Sonic game.
Seriously, my most recent playthrough I did was honestly the most enjoyable I had ever done, simply because I went into the game with the mindset of it being a puzzle and used the tips that we're about to talk about to help make the run-through as smooth as possible.
A much more preferable approach to not knowing what you're doing and trying to brute force the entire game, which, unfortunately, is what a lot of people end up doing, and is the biggest contributor to their dislike of the game.
First, let's go over how to properly deal with enemies. Unlike most other 3D Sonic games, regular enemies in Sonic Heroes aren't guaranteed to go down in a single hit, because for the first time in the series, they have these little things above their heads called health bars. You might have heard of them. Not only this, but as we mentioned before, there's a bit of a rock, paper, scissors mechanic with the enemy weaknesses that you'll need to take advantage of in order to not only do efficient damage, but sometimes even do damage at all. I consider there to be two major types of enemies in this game: grounded and flying. In general, for grounded enemies, you'll want to use your power type character to deal the most damage. For flying enemies, you'll want to use your fly type character to stun them and lower them to the ground for your power type to finish off. The speed type character can kind of deal with both, but in a much less efficient way, though you'll probably want to dedicate your power type to any enemy touching the ground, and fly type to make flying enemies touch the ground for your power type, which is kind of like a two-piece combo, a 1-2 punch.
But if only it were always that simple. Each enemy may or may not have additional buffs that make figuring out the solution to defeating them a bit more tricky. Sometimes, enemies will have shields or shells that prevent the power character from easily doing their thing, at least without wasting a lot of time breaking through their defenses after a ton of hits. And as the game progresses, you'll find yourself coming across more and more of these enemies. And this is where the speed type character comes into play. Speed characters can be used to debuff enemies that have these unique defenses. By using the tornado jump ability, enemy defenses are literally ripped off, leaving vulnerable weak spots open to attacks. Openings your power type character is all too happy to exploit.
Now, everything we just explained to you is actually somewhat conditional. One thing you have to understand is that the solutions to each puzzle may be different depending on each character's level, which means your decision making needs to be able to change on the fly to play efficiently. It sounds confusing, but trust me, there's some very universal guidelines you can follow to really simplify your decision making process.
Typically, the lower your level is, the more strictly you'll have to abide by the rules for each enemy we've just explained. But once you reach level 2, and especially level 3, characters are able to overcome most of their combat-based shortcomings and trump that rock-paper-scissors mechanic. You really can get away with using the quote-unquote wrong character type against most enemies once your team members reach higher levels. So let's explain why that is by going over the leveling system and what it adds to each character.
Level ups work like so. You'll occasionally find these circular orbs with colors matching one of the 3 respective character types. These are called power cores. These power cores can either be found in power core capsules hidden throughout the stage, or can be obtained after every 5 enemies defeated, where a random character who isn't the leader will get a power core. Checkpoints also provide power cores to whoever the leader is at the time of passing it. Collecting the color of the respective character type will give that character a level up.
All team members will start out at level 0 at the beginning of each stage, and each has the ability to level up individually by obtaining power cores like chaomix just explained. The maximum level is level 3, and in broad terms, leveling up boosts the strength of each character, but also grants other unique abilities and attributes as well. Everyone's level resets to 0 when starting a new stage, or whenever you die. So yeah, dying can be pretty devastating. Not only do you lose your progress, but your whole team is now level 0 as well, and you're stuck dealing with enemies using your most basic abilities. So, pro tip, don't die.
For speed type characters, levels 0 through 2 increases their base speed and acceleration as well as damage. But it's at level 3 where things get really interesting. At level 3, the homing attack receives tornado jump properties. This means that you can use a simple homing attack in order to disarm shields, flip enemies on their back, and even attach to vertical poles. Needless to say, this is a lot faster than having to play out the entire animation of the tornado jump. It makes both platforming and combat a lot more convenient. For power type characters, each level grants them additional strength. Level 1 introduces a 3rd hit to the original 2-hit combo, and level 3 creates an explosive area of effect attack after the 3rd hit of the combo. For fly type characters, each level up increases the duration of the fly meter. But that's far from all, because fly type characters are a little bit more tricky than the others. Truthfully, they start off pretty sucky. At level 0, Thundershoot only locks on to 1 enemy at a time. On top of that, it only stuns enemies, it doesn't actually do any damage directly. There are only 2 specific ways damage can be done at this point. 1, when an airborne enemy collides with the ground after being stunned, or 2, if the Thundershoot hits the enemy on its way back. Yeah, that one is kind of weird, I'm not sure what they were thinking with that. It's only at level 1 where Thundershoot can lock on to multiple enemies, but still with no direct damage. Fly-type characters just aren't viable at all for dealing damage at this level range. So for that reason, you should aim to get fly-type characters to level 2 or more as soon as possible. And at level 3, the increased strength combined with the ability to lock on to multiple enemies makes fly-types surprisingly strong in combat. Oh yeah, and at this level, Thundershoot also magnetizes rings, so yeah, that's kinda cool, I guess.
So that's pretty much how the whole dynamic rock-paper-scissors mechanic of Sonic Heroes works for the most part. But what happens if, even after all this, you run into some trouble with a big boy enemy and don't know what to do? Well, you do what any true Sonic hero should. You start team blasting. Problem solved.
Alright, we still got some tips and tricks for you all up our sleeves, this time relating to general platforming, because I see just as many people complain about this as they do the combat. And don't worry, these are all going to be pretty beginner friendly tips, no huge skips or crazy frame perfect speedrunner strats.
The first tip is just to pay attention to the suggested formation monitors and try switching to the recommended character as early as possible. The developers put those there for a good reason. There's almost always either going to be some platforming puzzle or combat section that will require whatever character they're recommending. So just do yourself a favor and listen to those suggestions.
Another thing I'd recommend is paying attention to ring formations. If you have rings in a straight line, it's best to use the speed characters and their light speed dash to zip through. Are the rings stacked up tall? Use the fly character to form a tower to nab them. Are the rings spread out? Use the power character to cover a wider area and collect them all. This is also a great formation to use on loop-de-loops, as a lot of them branch out into 3 directions and all have items for characters to collect. Admittedly, the partner character AI is kinda wonky, and they usually don't perfectly line up for this to work, but it's always at least worth a shot. Plus, you're gonna want to collect as many rings as possible to get that extra 1-up at 100 rings. Sonic Heroes is a bit on the difficult side when it comes to 3D Sonic games, so better to play it safe than to have to go back to the first act of the zone and lose 20 minutes of progress.
For boss battles, especially the rival team battles, which in all honesty can seem like an absolute clusterfuck. And they are. Always aim to collect the power cores right off the bat, then go in for the kill. Also, if your teammates get knocked off the stage, using your team blast will actually revive them. Extremely useful when you only have one character left and you're left getting smashed by the other team. The opposing team can do this too, so just keep that in mind. Alternatively, you can just pray that your opponents forfeit by literally jumping off the edge themselves. Huh. Thanks, guys.
Now let's get into some more specific tech. The easiest one is using the tornado jump for an extra boost. Some sections that suggest the fly character can actually be bypassed with the speed character by using the tornado jump. It almost acts as a second jump and can get you up to higher areas you normally wouldn't be able to reach without a fly type character. Just get a feel for it and use it when you feel you need just a bit of extra height. Another useful tech that I always use is for quick rail acceleration. You do this by holding down the action button and then switching between the speed and power type characters. This lets you build up to your maximum rail speed extremely quickly, especially if you switch right on a dash panel. You'll have to grip your controller a bit awkwardly with either a claw grip or a crab grip, but if you keep experimenting, you'll eventually find what's most comfortable for you. I personally use a crab grip.
Now, the final tip is actually more of a suggestion for anyone having a hard time purely with the difficulty of Sonic Heroes. As chaomix said, it is one of the more difficult 3D Sonic games out there. But if you didn't know this already, each team in the game actually serves as a separate difficulty. This isn't something that's stated super obviously, so if you're having a bit of trouble with the game, I'd suggest playing it in this team order. From easiest to hardest, it's Team Rose, followed by Team Sonic, Team Dark, and then Team Chaotix.
Team Rose acts as the easy mode of the game. Enemy encounters are a lot simpler, characters are a bit slower, making them easier to control, and levels literally end just about halfway through. They also straight up start off in a tutorial section unlike the other teams, so definitely play that to get a better understanding of this game. Team Sonic is the normal mode, which is what most people tend to start off with because, you know, Sonic. While I find this difficulty decently comfortable, for those that think this game is a bit too hard, again, I'd recommend trying Team Rose first to get better acquainted with the game. Then, Team Dark is the hard mode. Definitely don't start off with these guys if you're just starting out or if you're having a rough time. Lots of combat and pretty brutal enemy formations all throughout. You'll most likely end up getting frustrated and possibly giving up on the game after enough failed attempts. I know Shadow is cool as hell, but wait to play him until you're a bit more seasoned with the game. It'll be worth it, and you'll have a lot more fun. And finally, I recommend Team Chaotix last because they're kind of the oddballs. They don't exactly go through their levels normally like the other characters. Their stages are objective-based and really reward knowledge of the level layout, so I'd save them for last so you go in with the most experience as possible. Their stages can be quite annoying if you don't know what you're doing. Lots of running around aimlessly.
So yes, Sonic Heroes might actually be a puzzle game. I mean, sometimes it's just plain puzzling, but when you make an effort to look past this slightly gritty and, let's be real, ugly outer surface, you will find a really beautiful game underneath. If you embrace the systems and resist that urge to unceremoniously plow through the way you think is best, as I said before, that unmistakable and satisfying sense of flow and momentum that only these games can offer is right there waiting for you, I promise.
Not a lot of people understand that Sonic Heroes is half Sonic game, half puzzle game, and I think it eventually turns them off to the idea of Sonic Heroes as a whole. But hopefully this video gave you some inspiration to go through it again, but this time with the lens of it being a puzzle game. Hey everyone, thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. Huge thank you to Mark from Ace Card Gaming for collabing with me on this video.
I'd like to thank chaomix for inviting me onto his channel to help out with this video. I've had an absolute team blast. And a big thank you to everyone watching for taking the time to listen to this old timer ramble on about a 30-year-old blue hedgehog on speed. But for now, I've probably rambled on enough. Take care, guys.
Please go check him out. I'll leave the link to his channel in the description. If you like my content, you'll probably like his as well. I have 2 of his videos that I'd like to recommend you guys. The first one is his Sonic Heroes retrospective, very topical, and his second is an analysis of Ryan Drummond as the Adventure Era Sonic. Please go check those out, and again, thank you so much, Mark, for collabing with me on this video. If you like what you saw, leave a fat like and subscribe for more content similar to this. In the comments below, let me know what you think of Sonic Heroes. I know for a lot of people that game is kind of hit or miss, so let me know what you think. And to take that discussion even further, make sure to join our community Discord. I'll leave the link to that in the description. And last but not least, you know I gotta thank my amazing channel members. You all rock and are my #1 motivators to keep making these videos. If you'd also like to become a channel member for only $2, along with getting some pretty awesome perks, press the join button beneath this video or the channel membership link in the description for more details. Wow, that is a mouthful. And with all that being said, I hope everyone has a fantastic day. Peace.